where we about what is our power and how do we foster that individually and collectively. So to answer this question, it is so important for girls, specific youth, to be shown the endless possibilities. So I will use my personal stories as I remember starting in the workforce out of college, and how challenging it felt to navigate my new reality as a recent graduate. It felt like I was really starting at the bottom of the barrel, and I truly didn't have positive female mentorship like Chica Project has to guide me into this new journey I was stepping to. So what happens is that I settled a lot because I didn't see how I could find any better, especially not seeing myself represented in the workspace. And it's not until I met my former director slash mentor, now close friend, shout out to Mary Struska Tiamayev, I started dreaming. And I started dreaming that I too could achieve. She armed me with the many skills that I needed. She pushed me to finish my master's that I didn't want to at some point. And that really set me to be ready for the next big thing after Simmons University. Now I'm here, I'm walking into my purpose and truly doing the work of the heart at Chica Project, an organization that truly embodies the work that I've long wished that I could have had as a young girl. So the great essence of what we do at Chica Project is through the different programming that we offer is that allow for this career exploration, especially through the formation of organic relationships that are actively being formed between mentors, team members, peer leaders, and participants to foster those pathways to different possibilities for our young Black and Brown girls.
Great. Thank you so much. I know I saw a lot of head nods as you were speaking. That was great. I can definitely kind of relate to your first kind of job out of college, kind of feeling like you're settling. I didn't know that I could like ask for a higher salary than what I was just given. So I'm sure many people can relate. So that's amazing. Thank you. So I did want to follow up and kind of flip the switch and ask Lynn, who kind of works more in the evaluation and research side of programming, kind of what research have you found most helpful to conveying the importance of kind of gender intentional programming?
Yeah, so at NCWIT, we are in the computing technology aspect of this. And so to start with, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the numbers and why this is a problem.
Yeah,
so our resource by the numbers is, I think it's going to be in the chat in a minute. You can look at that. But one of the things that we found is while women make up 57% of the professional occupations in the US workforce, when you look at computing, only 26% are held by women. So that's a problem. And it's projected to have 4.7 million more jobs in computing by 2030. And we only are going to be able to do about 20% of that at the current level of bachelor degrees that are happening. So there's a big opportunity here, but we're finding the environment is a little harsh sometimes for women. So we're losing the women that we're getting in there. So we at NCWIT, we work to change the environment at organizations. So we do it organization level. And also what I do is the aspirations programs, which mostly works with K-12, but then we've gone through, we have college, and now a lot of our community is in the workforce. So our community is like 23,000 women now.
Wow.
So the research and evaluation that I've conducted shows that this community really provides that support that they need to stay in computing and really have that encouragement. And the other thing, we have an Aspire IT program. Recently it's kind of changed, but in the past we had programs all across the country, and they were led by near peers. So they were led by high school and college women. And so the girls were able to see this relationship and see, like I think Claudia was saying, see themselves in the field that oh, I can do this. So that's one of the things we really found is that near peer relationship really helps. And it helps the near peer person too. We found in the evaluation that it helps them. They feel more confident in their skills and they get these leadership opportunities. So it's a benefit both ways. So I think that just having the community, having that strong support and the near peer relationship is the research that we found really helps.
Thank you so much. And we'll make sure to share all of this. It is in the chat right now, and then also after the webinar. So as we kind of talk about the importance of this gender intentional programming, I did want to hear from a participant. We're lucky enough to have one here today. So Valeria, if you could kind of give, I wanted to give you a chance to speak about your experience kind of as an OBF member, being a female identified youth in one of these programs. You know, what's been the most rewarding aspect of being a part of OBF? Feel free to introduce yourself, your role, and then kind of answer the question.
Hi, my name is Valeria Cardosa. I am a 17-year-old and I am at the Henderson Inclusion School. I am vice president on the junior advisory board. The two most rewarding aspects of being part of OBF would be the one-on-one support that I'm able to get from Ariel and Wanda. And I would also say like the community that I've been able to build through the junior advisory board. When I first started working with Ariel, I told her about how I've always lived in a society where I've been disabled my entire life, but I was being mentored by people who were able-bodied. And for me, it was important to get that relationship with somebody who was able to relate to me on a deeper and personal level, especially as I'm going through challenges such as like going to apply for college and just having a career and what that looks like. So I wanted to have that person to just relate, even if it was not in the same ways, just in a similar way. And I was able to connect with someone named Keisha, and she has her own nonprofit called Girls Chronically Rock. And we were able to connect, and I'm able to connect with her and ask certain questions that I just can't certainly ask some other people. And for junior advisory board, I was able to step up in my leadership position and just grow as an individual and just share all of my personal experiences and hear some of theirs.
Great, thank you so much. I also like your background a lot. But thank you for that. I think it's always great to really hear from youth when we're engaging in this type of work. It kind of gives us the why we do this work. So thank you. And then I wanted to kind of jump into a little bit of resource sharing. So this is a question for everyone. So what is kind of one activity that you found really useful in guiding and building group dynamics among female identified youth? We can kind of start with Ariel and go around. But I'd love to hear a couple of examples that people could maybe take with them in other programming.
Yes, I like this question because I'm always challenged by it. And I think honestly, the answer is to create space for youth to just be. We started our summer leadership training for the junior advisory board. We actually started the in-person this summer. And there was a moment that really reinforced this for me. And I was in a meeting and I came out my office and I was looking back at the back of our office and all of our sister leaders were around the table laughing and talking and playing Monopoly, right? And I had been in several meetings with our team talking about like, we got a team building. We have to have team building. And we had created a lot of structure around team building. And I came out, I talked to Wanda, who's the assistant manager of OBF, and she was like, yeah, I just wanted to let them choose what they wanted to do. We had a bunch of games, so they went back and chose a game to play. And I was like, wait, that's all you had to do? And we had tried to get them talking. We were doing all of these activities to get them to connect. And really what we needed to do was step back and let them organically, as Carter, you pointed out, just create those relationships and those bonds. And it was through playing Monopoly. And it was so funny because it was right before their financial literacy workshop. And they chose it on their own. So I think for me, who comes from a very like structure, I need to know what they're doing, step back and allow them to just be in the space. And that to me is so valuable.
Great. Thank you. Letta, do you want to go next?
I love that, Ariel. That's so much that unstructured self-created time to just be. And I wanted to add to that. So we love that as well. And one of the things that we do at the beginning of the year is something that is structured, that gives us opportunities to be less structured later on. Right. So we start off with team building adventure at Project Adventure, where they are doing group building exercises and courage building exercises, where they're learning about, or not even learning, practicing self-management, communication, collaboration, goal setting, perseverance, right, empathy, and it allows them to engage in problem solving, team initiatives, creative challenges, and physicality. And what it does for us that sets the pace for the entire summer, in my opinion, is it allows them to step at the edge of their comfort zone into their courage zone, right? And so by stepping into their courage zone, they're pushing the boundaries of what they think is possible together and alone. And we work on 3 things each summer. They self-identify something that it will help them be courage ready, work ready, and team ready. Courage ready, work ready. Yes. Yes. And each week they meet with us one-on-one, and because they've self-identified, they then self-evaluate with some help. And just doing that together and knowing that everyone is stepping off of this diving board of sorts, right, allows them to begin to talk about things that matter. We know that the National Education Association says that girl-specific or gender-specific programming is important because it allows for room, like you're talking about, to breathe, right? Room for young people to ask, for girls in this case, to ask questions and to offer their opinions. Well, because they've already stepped off the courage diving board, they can then open up this space to say things that are more real and more authentic, and have questions, right, that can actually leave space for answers. So
Great. Thank you so much. Claudia, you want to go next?
Yes, absolutely love both of the approaches that Ariel and Letta shared. Definitely could relate to them within the Chica Project space. And just to add on to what they said, I think it's really important to foster an environment where they feel like they can listen to each other, and knowing that they have shared experiences. And I think one of the activities that has marked me the most is engaging into the Just Because I Am poem. And that activity itself, whoo, wow. It was so great to see the girls just come out of their shells and say, just because I'm Black doesn't mean I'm loud. Just because I'm Black doesn't mean that I'm mean. And just reclaiming their power in the end, and seeing like the sentence I am, and just seeing the girls. I love watching their reaction as we're doing programming and seeing their reactions in the room and knowing that, oh, wow, she's experiencing the same thing that I'm experiencing as well. I see the similarities here. We can actually be friends, like we're all in this together. I think that's been the best way of really setting the tone of fostering that environment where they feel that we're not against each other, we're for each other.
Yeah, great, thank you. And then lastly, Lynn, do you want to share?
Yeah, I just wanted to share one of our resources is our Aspire IT toolkit that was recently launched. And in there we have a facilitation how-to guide, and that offers a lot of helpful ideas and activities for doing these kind of things. So that's the only thing I can add, since I don't really do that kind of programming, but I love stories. They're great.
No, facilitation guide is always helpful. Thank you. I love hearing kind of all of the ways that people are connecting and building community among participants. I know it can be a challenge for sure, but I like, it seems like all of you are really giving young people the autonomy to make, the decisions for themselves of what's going to feel most helpful and build community. So that's great. And so my next question is for Ariel and Letta. So how do you and you kind of have spoken about this throughout your questions, but thinking about kind of how do you support female identified youth specifically in kind of career readiness programming?
Who's first? Who's first? No.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Right. So when I think about this, I think about so we want to provide them opportunities to develop skills so they are ready to go into their careers. And that's part of it, right? At Big Sister, we primarily work with Black and Latinx female identifying youth. And so there's a lot of data that shows there's disparate impacts on them in regards to going in certain careers, climbing up leadership ladders, and so on and so forth. And so there's two parts that really have to happen. We can pour everything into our young women, but if we don't do work in changing the systems and working with the companies and the organizations, it doesn't really matter, because there is a systemic issue that also has to be addressed. And I also think about career readiness, and what we communicate out to our young people is that, like, the formula is that you need these skills in order to be successful. But a lot of times it doesn't necessarily work, especially for Black and Latinx, right? And so we have to be very careful about that messaging, where the problem is that you don't have these skills. The problem is that you don't have this education. The problem is this. And once you have it, everything is going to fall in line for you.
Right.
That's generally not the case.
Right.
And so for me, I think you can do it in subtle ways. Like for us, when we started our summer training, our first workshop was with the Appleseed Research organization, and they came and did a presentation on the school to prison pipeline and how it impacts girls of color. And so that was a small way for us to show, like, we know the barriers that you're up against. So we do want to provide those skills for you. We want to provide that community space. We want to provide that career exploration, but we want you to know that we are in it with you, and we're ready to advocate and change systems for you as well. So that's how I'm thinking about that work.
Great, thank you. Letta?
Second, third, fourth, everything you just said, especially just all of it, this importance about being authentic, right, with our young people, with entering into the conversations with a we instead of like you are, right, girls are, because most of the folks that run, all of the people that work in our City Summer Internship program are also female identified. I find it helpful to speak from a we point of view, right? And also thinking about, one of the things that we do is we know that girls need mentors that reflect them, right? Rooted in the realities of their own lives. So for instance, the thing that I think that we do that's very important is we go on workplace explorations. And when we go on these workplace explorations, they're 3-hour experiences, and you get to learn about the job and learn about some of the things that go into it. But you also generally are dealing with a panel of women that are talking about their careers, right? And they're not just talking about the nuts and bolts of the careers, like about what they've learned to do in that specific job. They're talking about their trajectory, they're talking about their successes, they're talking about some of their failures, they're talking about sexism, right? So that they're learning, like, we're not actually underrepresented. We have been historically excluded. That is a truth, right? To what Ariel is talking about. Like, so how do we tell the truth and prepare them to step into it and fight the good fight for their career aspiration, right? You need some tools in order to, again, launch yourself into your aspiration, right? And some of these tools are keys that I wasn't taught early on, right? And I'm pretty sure that some of the others of us on this panel weren't taught early on. So because we've learned it, you don't have to take the hard road, right? Or as hard of a road, but it is the reality. So for instance, we got to go this summer to a lot of different places, but 3 of them that I want to highlight is we got to go to City Hall. Right? And at City Hall, they met some of the chiefs of staff, or chiefs in Mayor Wu's office, right? They met some of the folks that do a lot of the tech work, so a lot of the STEM work, and most of them were women of color. And some of them were women of color that came from the same neighborhoods that our girls came from. It is important, right, for a young woman to see someone who also came out of the projects, the OOP, right, Orchard Park, also standing in the mayor's office, talking about, you too can do this. We believe very strongly at Apprentice Learning, if you can't see it, you can't be it, right? So we also got to go to the record company, where they got to walk into a record company and watch other women and learn from them doing audio engineering, right? People got to touch instruments and touch soundboards. We also got to go to Foley Hoag, where we have several young women that have identified they'd like to be lawyers. Well, we all know law from Law and Order, but there are a million different kinds of lawyers, right? And I do say lawyer. I know up on the East Coast, y'all say lawyer, but at any rate, they were able to sit with a panel of women of color who are doing the work that they might be interested in, right? And it is so important to be able to see what was possible for you, right? I feel like with this work, thinking about positive youth development frameworks, right? With this work, we often talk about the bullet points that are detrimental, right? And we will be really quick to talk about somebody who's from the ghetto, et cetera, or like they're impoverished, et cetera. And rarely do we talk about the journey that people make towards success, right? Or that it is a cauldron of success oftentimes, right? But we also don't do this, language matters, right? We talk more about the demographics that would put someone at risk, supposedly, and not about Black Wall Street, right? Or just any of those things. Like, and so offering these pictures that supplement or add on to the other pictures so that you have a fuller truth of what the broad spectrum of possibilities are for someone.
Got it. Great.
Yes.
Thank you.
I just want to drop that yes in there.
Great. Thank you so much for those responses. So Lynn, given that a lot of the gender intentional career readiness program is centered around kind of STEM, what are some aspects of your programming that kind of keep it innovative and engaging? And do you kind of have any other resources that you wanted to share with the rest of the attendees here?
Yeah, so for our aspirations programs, we're always like working to be update and make sure that's really relevant to the girls in the community. So we do a needs assessment routinely to see what are we missing. We learned some things from our recent one, and we opened up a Slack channel. We revitalized our LinkedIn group, some things like that, because they were wanting more connections than just Facebook. And so we learn things that way. I do a thorough evaluation of each program every year. And so that, that data, yay. And so you learn from that, the program leaders learn. And so we evolve. We also partner with a lot of other organizations, such as Million Girls Moonshot, Anita B, MentorNet, Girls in Tech. I mean, I could keep going on. There's so many. And, we support them and we collaborate with them. So we're always trying to do anything we can to help girls succeed. But one thing I wanted to resource specifically is our new NCWIT toolkit that I talked about, the Aspire IT toolkit. We have so many resources that a lot of the resources are what the girls developed on their curriculum that they developed on their own. And then also some curriculum from like Apple and Google and stuff. But there's all kinds of things in there if you want to develop a program on your own. So check that out. We have a lot of mentoring resources. Like we have 2 mentoring in a box resources and something for graduate students. So all these resources are free. You can find them at ncwit.org/resources. So check them out. And there's shared a file in there. So
great. Thank you so much. And kind of thinking about programming, I know other folks on the panel are kind of less science and STEM or science and technology focused. So how do you kind of build a variety of partnerships with how do you build a variety of partnerships with lots of different careers and industries to kind of create work-based learning programs for the youth that you serve? If one of you wants to take this, that would be great.
Yeah, I could jump in there.
Go for it, yeah.
For us, it's really about leveraging the Big Sister Network and the companies that we're already connected through, primarily through our board of directors, And then we have Big Sisters as well. We did a trip out to Talbot's, and that was through a relationship we had with one of our Big Sisters, and she wanted to create this career exploration opportunity for our littles. And so, and also we have young people that will say, hey, I'm interested in this company. And I will just reach out and say, I have a young person that's interested. And I leverage the Big Sister name to do that. So
Perfect.
I think, yeah, that's definitely how we do it. But it is time consuming. And so I think to recognize like partnership development really should be housed under one person because it is time consuming, it is work, it's a lot of back and forth communication and making sure you're crafting the right opportunity for your young person.
Got it. Absolutely. And then Claudia, do you want to go quickly?
Yes, just to add quickly, I say tapping into our network is our biggest asset. We do have a network programs associate who goes through a process where she assesses the partnership and makes sure that they are mission aligned and vision aligned with Chica Project. I think that is very important in setting up the participants for success and just being able to do an extension of our curriculum with our partners. So by putting this year, I know that we're particularly looking into putting together community events where we are inviting our partners to co-facilitate or just facilitate simply going into their space. An example of that would be the Girls Entrepreneurship Summit, which Chica Project will be involved in, just like facilitating a session, but just things like that, we're just trying to share the resources all across and making sure that they are relevant to the girls that we serve.
Great, thank you. And then Letter quickly.
So yes to everything that Claudette and Ariel shared. We do those things as well. In addition, the thing that I can add to this conversation is that we have a team or people on our team who work directly with our workplace partners, right, to create and curate the experience so that they are paying deep attention to the visual learners, the auditory learners, the kinesthetic learners, so that they are being responsive to our equity statement, right? Our equity, forget statement, our equity practice, right? And are leaning in to doing some things that are sometimes, you're talking about the thing and you're doing some of the thing. And so for us, it is all about the relationship building as well. So we don't have workplace partners that are just like, hey, would you like to work with some youth? No, you actually get to meet with us, and we intend to meet with you and talk to you and see if we are mission vision aligned, and how we know you want to do good work, and we believe in that. But if we're truly to be collaborators and partners in this work, then let's all get on the same page.
Got it. Great, thank you. And then our last question before we see if the audience has any questions, I'd love to hear from Valeria again. So can you just share like one specific internship opportunity or kind of work-based learning experience you've had in the past and what kind of skills you've gained from it and what's been kind of most useful you think for your future career?
Yeah, I internshiped with Big Sister Boston last year with Wanda and the OBF series, summer workshops. And I was able to get a bunch of skill sets that I can take as I want to be. I think I want to be a child life specialist. And I was able to learn networking, professional communication, and administrative work. And I think I want to, and I think these are important to take into any career, but especially the one that I want to go into. And I think that I want to do this because, especially in the summer, I've learned there's so many jobs that I don't even know that exist. So
Yeah.
I know what I want to do and I know what kind of mission that kind of serves. So whatever I want to do, whether that be child life specialist, I think these kind of tie in because I need to know how to network. I need to know how to talk to people, how to do administrative work in case those things do align with what I want to do.
Great. It seems like you are well on your way to getting all of those things done, I must say. But thank you for that response. That was great. So thank you, everyone. I did want to see if there were some questions from viewers. It does look like we have one that's kind of asking for some more tips and strategies for building, for program staff to build relationships with female youth. So I know we kind of touched on that, but maybe giving a couple more strategies for folks.
I can tap into this as a
Yeah,
participant.
absolutely. Yeah.
I think that the strongest thing I've been able to build was when I first started OBF, like the coaching program, and I was able to get that one-on-one like conversation, just like it was to be like, hey, what do you want to do? And then just like going into like kind of the struggle as being disabled, physically disabled, and being Latina. So like just kind of those kind of conversations were really important to frame
Mhm.
like everything else I did, like junior advisory board, because it was like that kind of extra push. Because I created a position with the junior advisory board, but now I'm vice president. So like that push was kind of needed, and I needed that like one-on-one like relationship. So that's what I would say
Mhm.
as a youth, but
Great. No, I think that's amazing. Anyone else want to follow up to that? Yeah, let
Yes.
us.
Something that I've been thinking about lately that came about during our summer program this year, that I realized is that as program staff, there is no need to, I mean, there never was, but there's no need to dumb down or, or to speak little to young people about their experience, about the world of work, about job aspirations or career readiness. We were lucky or fortunate enough to create a platform of trust. So we learned a lot of things about some of the things that our young people were going through. They are leading very complicated lives, right? They are leading lives in which sometimes family members are upstate or what we call jail. You know what I mean? And right, Ariel, you know what I mean? Or leading lives in which they're caring for younger siblings or doing 16 activities after school, etc. But we don't often lean into those conversations, and we start at this very basic level about, how do you, um, how do you get up in the morning, instead of asking them, how do you get up in the morning and how can we support you, right? We're offering a lot of solutions sometimes without actually having the conversations to see what the identified problem or even just situation is. And I find that one of the things that we can do with participants is to be authentic and to be real and to assume that there is some expertise in the room that we didn't bring.
Mm,
Absolutely. I love that. The only thing I would add to is be consistent and don't push too hard. A lot of times, especially in the nonprofit sector, we have our deliverables. We want to hit these numbers. We want to be able to talk really strongly about our programming and talk about how impactful it is and so on and so forth. And that can frame how we interact with our young people and our youth. And sometimes you got to put that aside and just be in the space with them. I have young people that all they want to do is say hi to me once a week. I'll get a hi text and I'm like, hey, how you doing? I'm still here. Won't hear from them till next week. And that's where they're at right now. And that is okay. And I think like that's really important. Just be consistently there and do not know how much to push, but don't push too hard based on your own objectives and agenda.
yeah, got it. Mm, any other responses to that? Thinking about strategies for kind of connecting with people, Claudia?
I would just say care and intentionality. To what Ariel said, sometimes we can get so caught up into what the bigger scheme of what we want to achieve is, and we almost forget that we have listening ears. And I think that's the number one thing when working with younger participants, to offer them listening ears. Sometimes they don't want to hear solutions. They don't want to hear about your experience and what you wish you had. They just want you to listen and to be with them in the space, just like Ariel said. So that comes with a lot of care and intentionality.
Yeah. I do have another follow-up question, kind of thinking about supporting young people. Obviously, this work is really important, but also being able to support yourself and take care of yourself. And obviously in doing that, it allows you to, obviously provide the services you do to youth. But what are some things that your organizations or maybe previous organizations that you've worked with have done to kind of support their staff in the work that they do supporting young people? So kind of taking that step back, what are some things that organizations can do to help support the people that are supporting young people?
Well, this reminds me of what Ariel was talking about when she walked in and the girls were all laughing.
Mhm.
We do a wellness retreat for our staff, right? And we went away for 3 days, and there was no major agenda. And we were able to play pool, go,
Nice.
take walks. We went kayaking. It was amazing. We saw a beached whale. That was very sad, but we saw one, you know. But to just be, right? The same thing that we're asking, the work is um, for young women, young girls, to be able to just be and expand, period, right? So if we give ourselves room to do that as well with this freedom, it helps us with the young women as well.
Got it. Thank you.
That sounds amazing. So I sit in a middle management space. So I have a strong foot in direct service and then a strong foot in the administrative side of things. And Clara, what you said about we have listening ears, sometimes that needs to happen with staff, right? And managing up. But also in this middle management space, sometimes you have to hold the line for your direct service staff. And so I mentioned earlier, a lot of times we have the agenda, we have the grant deliverables, we have all of the things that really guide our priorities. But our staff who are working with our young people, who are working with their youth, they hit fatigue, right? Emotional fatigue, physical fatigue. And when they are communicating, sometimes not verbally, when they're communicating to you that they are tired, you have to hold the line for them, on the request and give them the space to breathe and recalibrate and just pour into themselves. And I think that's really, really important and can be very difficult to do in the space that we work in. But it's something that we really have to be intentional about for our direct service staff.
Great. Thank you. Does anyone else want to answer that question?
If you did that, I'll add that Chica Project is a space that really prioritizes rest and healing. And that's a conversation that I've heard from the very first time that I've stepped into this space. And I was like, what's rest and healing you mean? And it was such an interesting journey for me to get there. I cannot claim that I have fully found balance into my work life yet, but I can see the proactiveness in getting that. Little things like summer Fridays. For the summer, we have not worked a single Friday, and it's just been solely to purely enjoy the summer and just be. And that allows me to tap into things that I want to do, things that fill my cup up. So then when I come back on Monday, I'm not like, oh my God, another week. I feel more re-energized that I got at least that one day off to breathe, even though I didn't get through my task for the last week, but that's okay. I got that myself. And I know that with seeing an employer going to that extent for you, you feel much more invested in the work that you do and just putting your best foot forward. And just knowing that it's going to be, how do I say this? It's all going to come together in the end. And that there are times that you can just stay still and be quiet and just be.
Exactly. Great. Thank you so much. So I think those are most of the questions we have. I wanted to thank everyone for being on this panel. Thank you to the folks that have been listening and watching. Thank you so much for being here. I will send a follow-up email with the slides, all of the resources, everyone's contact information, and I hope everyone enjoys the rest of your week. only one more day till, well, Clowder's done, but everyone else, one more day until the weekend. So thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day, everyone.
Thank you.
I think
Bye.
Thank you.